Welcome, welcome. I just want to say I am so excited about our conversation today. This is Lauren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, and today's topic is financial storytelling, sharing the story behind the numbers. And I'm going to be speaking with Debbie Kilsheimer today, and I'll introduce you in just a moment. But I want to let you know, you are absolutely in the right place if you want to get your clients excited about the financials, because right now they're kind of checked out when it comes to the numbers. You want to be able to explain the numbers in an easy to understand way in order for them to actually get it and be able to recognize how this applies to their business so they're making better business decisions, and the framework that turns financial data into a story. I suggest you have pen and paper ready, however you take notes, because Debbie shares a lot. She always over delivers. And we'll also let you know where you can find more and want to speak to her as we wrap up. Let me share a little bit about Debbie. Debra Kilsheimer works with her husband, Harold Hickey, in Behind the Scenes Financials, Inc. They provide tax preparation, accounting, and consulting services. Debbie's expertise is in using QBO to solve client accounting challenges, focus on streamlining processes, and collaborating with her clients, showing them how their business is doing now in order to make the necessary changes that will impact their future. She loves sharing her excitement about this profession with her colleagues, where she teaches webinars and she's at live events like QuickBooks Connect and Scaling New Heights. When she's not working with clients, Debbie is an accomplished violinist and also an avid knitter. She is always knitting whenever she has her hands free and able to do that. You'll find her also in their beach condo, either in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, or Marco Island. And if you want to learn more about Debbie Kilsheimer and Behind the Scenes Financials, you can do that at www.bts-services.com. So that's where you can go and find out more. But right now, Debbie, I just want to bring you into the conversation because I am so looking forward to this topic of storytelling. So before we do anything, can you just share a little bit about how you realize the power of storytelling and bring it into your firm and how you work with your clients?
Well, I always found that, when we explain things to people, they kind of get this glazed over look. And I thought, well, how can I relay this information instead of going, well, your bank account balance is low. Or one of my favorite times to tell stories is when they're looking for an accountant. Why should I even have one? So I thought if I give them stories and analogies and reasons and examples, it all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. It becomes more real, and stories are memorable. People remember stories, so I came up with how to, like if I just give an example, then they'll remember it. And so I kind of come up with it, off the top of my head a lot of times, but I try not to talk in the numbers. When I look at the financials or something, I try to look at it and think, what does this mean? Or when they're looking to work with you, we think, well, why should they work? Why should I work with you? And, we say, well, because you should. And I said, well, because if you don't, you're going to, fail, or you come up with a reason, a story about why it's good. Or I always try to use examples of, when you're trying to get a concept across. A lot of people, I use restaurants a lot because people understand restaurants. Everybody eats out, or they drive a car. And, one of the big things is, well, why should I, pay for a subscription? And I say, well, do you drive a car? And they go, well, yeah. I said, well, you could walk. It's cheaper. Takes you longer. But you're willing to pay for a car. And they go, oh, they finally get the concept because you're talking to them as a story, kind of thing. So that's so I always kind of come up with analogies and metaphors and stuff like that. And, a lot of times I use the same ones over and over again, of course, different clients, but they seem to get it then. And I also think stories help them to get them to like you. I really don't think letters behind your name and accolades that you have or any of that, or how even good you are at this profession, as important as those things are, what they want is get them to like you.
Mhm.
If they like you, they'll want to do business with you. Now you have to back it up with competence, but getting them to like you by telling stories and being real. And so they understand, because remember, they aren't accountants. So when you talk to them, look at this financial and what do the numbers mean? So think, you have to kind of think a little bit on your feet, like, what does this mean? And then if they're not getting it, you can tell when they're not getting it.
Oh, absolutely. Their eyes glaze over. They want to
Yeah,
look at their
they,
phones and go
yeah,
back to texting somebody else. So,
right. Like, and so
mhm.
that's why I think it's important. A lot of times, like when you're sending out proposals, especially, we just, talking one-on-one can be scary
Mhm.
because, well, I want them to accept it or whatever it is. Well, get on a Zoom call, because part of communication is more than words. It's body language and tone of voice. And, so get on it. If you can't meet them in person, get on a Zoom call. So at least you can see what they're saying. You can see if
Mhm.
they're, if your message is landing. And if it's not, switch it up, get it. I think our job is to have them understand. And,
Mhm.
they don't need to be, we need to get them to understand. They don't need to understand us. It's kind of like when I go to the doctor. Here, this is an example of what I come up with. We go to the doctor, and if he's
Mhm.
telling me about, he shows me a list of I had the blood work and all the stuff that happens. And I said, doctor, that means nothing to me.
Right.
Tell me what it means. See, we look at a financial statement and we know what all that means. They don't want to look stupid. So they say, oh yeah, but they're thinking inside, what does all that mean? So tell a story, like, well, I can see based on what you're doing that you're going to run out of cash. You're going to not be able to meet the next payroll. What do you think your
Mhm.
employees are going to say? I can see with the money you're spending, your wife has access to the bank account, and, you're not doing a reasonable compensation. I can see the IRS knocking on your door. You want that to happen? I mean, so get them, tell the story about what you're seeing by using
Mhm.
analogies and metaphors and stuff like that. And, use examples of real life, like I just did with the doctor. Everybody understands that,
Absolutely. So part of what I see with the storytelling with the numbers is that when you just give the numbers, they're very dry, they're boring, they're bland, they're vanilla to other people because they don't geek out over them in the same way that you do. They don't speak the language. But when you start to create stories and put it together with when this happens, this is the outcome, or this is why you're
Mm-hmm.
experiencing this, then it actually taps into the emotion.
Right.
And they start to comprehend why they're now having this problem over and over and over again. And it has the potential of creating a light bulb moment for them that they didn't have up until then. So when you're using that, I love the fact that you see your job is to get them to understand the financials, and that you're able to create that um, analogy or give them a way of, okay, don't just talk about the numbers, but put them into a situation or a scenario. And if somebody doesn't know how to tell stories, and in the beginning, Debbie, I didn't know how either. That was something I actually put a lot of effort into. I joined Toastmasters for a year just to work on my storytelling. What I want to say that you use as an example over and over again, if you're looking at doing storytelling for the first time, you want to start off with Debbie's words of here's what I see. And when you start off a sentence with here's what I see, then you can talk about the problem. You can plug in the numbers and you can explain now why this is going on. And then you can maybe put in other financial data or insights to be able to show them how to turn it around. And any thoughts about that? And if that's something that you've been doing also?
Yeah. And I do all of that. And I think it's
Mhm.
important too, when I'm working with prospects, is I want to know why they're doing this. I mean, the fact that they made $1 million, $1 million has really no meaning of itself. But what do they want to do with the $1 million? Or what do they want to do with the profits of their business? What's the purpose? They want to put kids through school. Do they want to pay, pay for, like, I had one girl come in, I said, well, what do you want from your business? Well, I would really want to put Vinny through kindergarten. Well, what's that cost? $500. Okay, great. Let's take a look. Hook up the QBO, stuff comes in. I see all these Starbucks charges coming in. And I said, well, I can see you really like coffee. Oh, yeah, I live, me too. I said, well, just think if you would go to 7-Eleven or get your own pot, you could put Vinny through school, not make one change. Oh, I mean, so I'm talking about the numbers in a way that has meaning to her.
Right.
The fact that she could make an extra $500, that's kind of out in the pie in the sky stuff. But I say, gee, every time you go through Starbucks, I want you to think I'm choosing Starbucks or Vinny's school. Oh, so I said, make that conscious choice, and she did. Now so, but it was a story I got to tell with what I saw, because that's what was important to her.
And I think that that's the critical part, is really take the time to find out what your clients care about, what matters to them, and really what would be different or why that's important. And then the other thing that you're talking about is, now that you know what matters to them, show them how to apply the numbers in order to be able to achieve that goal. Because what I feel, Debbie, as an accounting professional, is that you can show them how to achieve that goal probably faster, better, and maybe even exceed their expectations, because you're now plugging in financial data instead of making decisions on whim.
And remember, these business owners, they're out there by themselves. Meaning, they're thinking about their business, and may have staff that they're trying to, support, meaning pay their paychecks, and they have families at home they're trying to do. Who's on their side? So I always like to, I always think of them like children, in the sense that, I praise my kids to success. I always say, when I caught them doing something right, I praise them for that. I noticed you did good job. And then, we always think that we need to point out everything they're doing wrong. Start pointing out stuff they're doing right, and they'll start doing more stuff right than wrong. And if they do stuff wrong, well, I kind of notice that, oh my God, and tell a story about what, and make it to the nth degree. And make it wild as far as what could possibly happen. And and it just makes life more fun. But if they know you're on their side. So I'm always finding the things they're doing right and praising them to success. So whatever that may be.
Debbie, do you find that because you're approaching the accounting and the financials this way with your clients, that they actually want to have meetings with you and they look forward to them, because the fact that you're able to show them in a very elementary way how to apply the numbers in their business?
Well, right. And I don't make clients meet with me. A lot of time, and I don't even give, I'm kind of a wackadoo a lot of times. And, I feel they hire me to watch the numbers. So I let them know, do you want your financial statements every month? Do you read them? No, I don't even look at them. I said, okay, guess what? I will, if I see something out of the ordinary, I will contact you. Great. You go do your thing. What is your thing? What is it you want to achieve? How many customers, so we have that kind of goal setting, instead of like, well, I want to have this much money in the bank account, that, or whatever. I said, let me just keep track of everything. If I see something wacky, I'm going to call you. Okay, great. So if I see something great, I will call them. So I initiate a lot of calls versus waiting to have these formal meetings. Cause it's like, I don't like going to the doctor or the dentist.
Right.
I know I have to get so I have a nice smile, but I don't want, I know I have to go, but I want it where they want to see me, instead of having to get to see me like I have to go to the dentist every 4 months. So, but they look forward. If I talk to them, they're not going to, I don't scold them. I mean, I see some
Right.
accountants that yell at their client. Well, you did that.
Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
No, I mean, we've gotten a lot of clients because they said to us that their accountant yelled at them. I go, well, I'll never yell at you.
That is really sad to
Isn't
hear.
that something? Because they
You
don't
know
do
what?
things right. They don't follow the rules. I mean, all these business owners are doing is trying to make a living and do their best. They
Right.
don't know all of the stuff that's coming out and all the rules. Like right now, this new BOI thing came out. You all familiar with that? I mean,
Hmm.
call up and start talking about that. And you go, you know what? There's something else I got to do. Can you believe this? I mean, so I come up with a funny story about it and how we're going to handle it for them. Or they can do it themselves. They can go on the site and do it. I don't want to
Right.
take care of it. You take care of it, Debbie. Okay, great. But they know that you're telling stories about what's going to happen if they do. And if you don't do it, you're going to have to, sell one of your kids. Maybe you want to.
Okay, so part of what I hear and I absolutely love because I think that it needs to happen more is you do proactive accounting. If
Yes.
you see something, you are picking up the phone and reaching out to them, and whether it is really about telling them how proud you are of them, or about something that needs to be looked at because it's a concern, you're doing that in a very client-centered manner. And I believe that that is what differentiates firms from, everybody else that kind of blends in.
Well, when I was, my dad was my pop-up was an accountant. My dad was a business manager. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the oldest of four. And we had, my dad did not make a lot of money, but we had everything we needed. I took violin lessons. I took piano lessons. I went to summer camp. I went to Girl Scout camp, as did my brothers and sisters. And my dad did it on a teacher's budget because he budgeted. He knew where the
Mm-hmm.
numbers
Right.
went and what they meant and what,
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom putting the receipts in the stuff. So he took the bucket of money he was allotted and made it work for his family. And what was important to my dad, it was education. So we made sure
Mm-hmm.
that we had the lessons we needed and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that's what accounting should be. When I got
Mm-hmm.
actually into a profession, when I became a CPA, we always were looking backwards. I thought, who
Yes.
cares what happened 2 years ago? Not
Mm-hmm.
that it's not important. It's kind of like when you want to lose weight, you need to track what you ate. So you write down everything you ate in your app or on
Mm-hmm.
your piece of paper and go, oh, if I gave up this latte every day at 2 o'clock, I'd save 500 calories. That's 3,500 calories a week. That's a pound. In a year, I'd lose 52 pounds by giving up one latte at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But you knew that because you tracked it. That to me was what accounting is. You
Right.
track what you've done so you can make a change for the future. What does that future want to be? If you never knew you wanted to lose weight, you wouldn't know to give up the latte. So what does
Mm-hmm.
your future want to be? So I thought I want to be a proactive firm instead of always looking behind me. I want to use all the technologies available to me, which makes me do my job faster because, so when people complain to me about, the cost of QuickBooks Online and this app costs money, I said, again, that's why I drive a car. It gets me there faster.
Mm-hmm.
I could walk. I mean, I went up to New Jersey on Sunday, up and back in the day. Well, would have taken me a long time if I had to walk. I'd
Oh,
still,
absolutely.
you
Okay,
know,
so you're actually talking about the whole change that's going on in the profession anyway, with adding in advisory services, being more future focused. But I also want to get back to something a little bit more fundamental with the storytelling. So we do financial statements, there's P&Ls and everything like that. How would you apply storytelling when talking with your clients about their financials and reviewing the statement?
well, you have to have I just kind of put the numbers into what do they mean? Again, I know what it is they're after,
Mm-hmm.
and say, look, by doing what you're doing, like I have a pool company that I work with, and their thing is making sure the employees are paid well and that, they can give to their church, which are all great things.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell them everything you're doing is helping that mission. Now, and he says, I want to be able to give my employees more. I said, okay, so let's look at what would happen if you would raise the price or we cut this off or, and so he sees what it means to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, is that answering your question? So I know what they want. So
Mhm.
let's talk about when I'm looking at and what it is that is important to you, and how we can make your life better.
Okay,
To make
then instead of just looking at the report and reviewing all the different lines on the report, you're really taking what is top of mind for them and creating, once again, some different options as to what would make things work so that they can achieve their goal. So you don't
Right.
have to go through everything line by line.
No.
You just want to help them achieve something that's important to them and show them the outcomes that are possible.
Right. And sometimes they'll come to you and say, in fact, this same client I was talking about, his wife keeps wanting to cancel QuickBooks.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I said, Wendy, go
Are they
back to
going to go
paper and
back to
pencil.
like manual handwritten
Yeah,
spreadsheets?
because she doesn't like to pay the monthly, you know.
Right.
So, I just kind of laugh at her and say, okay, Wendy, you can go back to paper and pencil. Of course, my fee's
Mhm.
going to, 10 times,
Oh,
and I won't do it.
absolutely.
You know,
If you even want to continue working with someone who's
exactly.
using paper
You
and
know,
pencil, so that's a whole other situation.
so
Mhm.
I talk about what I look into the future about what's going to happen if they do this. This is the future. And sometimes
Mhm.
it might be because they want to do something incorrect,
Right.
and I'll tell them, okay, well, you eat too many donuts, much good as they taste today,
Yep.
you're not going to fit in that dress.
Mhm. And do you feel that for someone that is interested in storytelling, but they really need the how-to steps, that there are certain elements to consider when you are starting to talk to your clients in that way?
Well, just create a narrative structure, just think
Mhm.
about, think of another example, another like what is real, what's a place that people understand. That's why I use restaurants a lot, and, cars a lot. People know cars, they know restaurants. So I use those examples when I'm trying to get a point across. Um, and people, remember, people don't know if your story's bad.
Mhm.
You might think, oh, that stunk. They don't know. So, and start telling, you tell stories to your kids all the time. I think my clients are like my kids, like
Mhm.
trying to get them to do something. I'm trying to get them to want to do it. How do I get them to want to take out the trash? So you come
Mhm.
up with a story about, like, if you take out you come up with a reward at the end or something like that about what's going to happen if you do all that stuff. But just explain things in a way that are human, that are
Mhm.
real. Instead of like, well, your ratios are this, that means nothing to them. And they're not going to say, well, well, I don't understand what you're talking about. But if you look at their face, you'll be able to tell. So explain it in a
Mhm.
way that makes sense, you know.
So part of what I'm hearing is, first of all, get rid of all that industry language because they don't necessarily understand what ARs and APs are and reconciliations. You want to be able to start putting it maybe more in an elementary context, as if
Yeah,
you're talking to a 6-year-old.
exactly. In fact, that movie, Philadelphia, one with Denzel Washington and Tom
Mhm.
Hanks, Denzel Washington always is saying, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old.
Yes.
And I use that a lot.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'll tell them, I'm going to talk to you like you're a 5-year-old.
And I want to say the reason I think that that's so important is because there's so many people that have stuff around money. They have financial shame. Even though they're business owners and they might have a really strong 6 or 7-figure business, they might still have financial shame because they don't really understand the numbers or they intimidate them. So that's why we need to break it down into really fundamental ways so that a 6-year-old can grasp it, because that might be where their understanding is around the financials in their business. And you want to make sure that you're speaking at their level. The other things that you were talking about is you want to create some type of narrative, and a narrative usually has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And examples are great ways. You were talking about car and restaurant examples. The main thing is that you want them to get excited about this, or at least take action, and have this not be talking just because you can talk and you want to hear yourself talking, but you want to get them to do something. And I think that that's the most important thing, is how can you inspire them And part of that, what you were mentioning also, is that they need to see the benefit at the end. What is the reward? What's like that a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow?
Well, I think a lot about process.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a goal setter in the sense that if, I want to get to this certain achievement, but to do that, I have to back it up as what do I have to do today? What's the process I have to do? So if they want to have, solid,
Mm-hmm.
audit proof. Nothing is audit proof. I mean, get beyond that thing, because if the IRS wants to audit you, they will.
Right.
You want to be able to go through it easily. So if you want to have it, let's go through this easily. So let's make it so the process is there. Keeping the receipts, throwing them in a box, scanning them in, that kind of stuff, and just make it a game if you want. But so I talk a lot about, what is it you're after? Now, some people are real scaredy cats. You know what I mean? Every single receipt they had to have. And as bookkeepers, we have to stop getting so nudgy about, looking at every receipt. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if they go to Office Depot, I don't need to see the receipt. I figure they're,
It's
fact,
off a surprise, right?
pardon?
It's off a surprise.
Exactly. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
one time somebody asked me, well, I noticed they bought crayons. What? I, you know, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, or a pack of gum. Is that a meal and entertainment? Should I include that in the bonus? Come on. I mean, there's reasonableness in accounting,
Mm-hmm.
but don't be a pain in the butt to them where they
Right.
don't like to talk to you because all they think about is you're a nudgy accountant, I call them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that things shouldn't be done correctly, but they don't have to be perfect. Perfect books are expensive. So I talk about, how you need to be in compliance, how, we need to make sure that all of the base stuff is covered. Now we get into the fun stuff. Make sure your sales tax is paid and your people are paid and your
Mm-hmm.
taxes, and at the end of the year, I said the tax return is only a required report at the end of the year. It's not the reason you're in business. Let's make this fun where we give it to the tax guy and he's off. I mean, here it is, what, February, first week of February. And pretty much I'm wrapping up all the business. Of course, Hal does a lot of the taxes for the clients I do. And he's starting to get busy.
Right.
So it's all there for him. So I go, that's done.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, let's move on to the next year. What do we want to do this next year? Here's what we did last year. Let's use it as a jump off place for next year. Did you like what you did?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see yourself
Right.
next year? Did you go on vacation like you wanted? Okay, what can we do to make those things happen for you? And everybody's different, meaning somebody,
Right.
like we had a girl in here one time and she wanted to be able to make enough money to take her husband on a trip to Ireland. All right, how can we do that? How can you make more? We can teach you to make more money. And she was a W-2 employee.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, all right, what if we showed you how you could go out to thrift stores and yard selling and make an extra $1,000 a month doing eBay? Really? So Hal taught her how to do eBay, and she took her
Very
there,
nice.
Ireland. But we knew what she wanted and
Mm-hmm.
gave her the possibilities of how to do it.
And so when you talk about stories, what I found for myself is that I have like a story bank. I have a bank of stories, and when the context is right, that's the one I'm going to pull out and use. Is that something you found as well that
Yeah, I mean,
applies to
talk about
accounting?
client examples that you have. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
use names. We have a client that's a pool company and a client that did this, or give them
Mm-hmm.
warning shots about something, and this is how they did it, or this is how they handled it. So you have your examples or stuff you read about, and use that as examples for them to say, oh, I can see, because they don't know what's out there and they're afraid to ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid to use examples about what somebody else did, how they, I use a comparison stories a lot, somebody that wanted to start a business that didn't involve an accountant and someone who
Right.
did, and the different levels of success the one that did it involve an accountant achieved versus the one that didn't. They didn't know what was the important things to focus on. Well,
Mm-hmm.
you help them, the other one, focus on the right stuff, and I use comparison stories a lot.
Okay, so you talked about two different types. There's client examples where you're doing something very specific because it proves a point. and then the comparisons, which I think is really important because when I was studying sports psychology and also neuropsychology of how our brains work by comparisons. We don't make very good decisions when something is out of context. We need to compare one thing to another, which is why people get caught up in research and they spend too much time in research. But by being able to give a couple comparisons, it helps them kind of weigh one against the other and look at which one's a better option for them.
Right. That's why, like, when you look at a set of financials, look at last year to this year, last month to this month. You know, what happened? Why did sales go down? I mean, and talk about and ask them. They know the answers. But if you are comparing things, it's easier to, a bank account balance by itself means nothing. Sales by itself mean nothing. But compared to last year, mean a lot. Compared to another, a lot of times they want to do industry. How am I doing compared to the industry standards? And I go, I don't know, because, if garbage in, garbage out, we're assuming the industry is doing it as well as you are.
And the other point that is coming up is talking about that is stories aren't just about the words, but the words create an image in their minds. And some of your clients are actually going to be more visual than just wanting to see the line by line items on a report. So you might want to start using graphs and bar charts and everything like that and bring in more of the visual element, because it might be easier for some of your clients to grasp that and understand that than just printing out a regular P&L or balance sheet.
Yeah. And right now QuickBooks Online has a lot of that stuff going on, and don't try to make them something they're not, meaning if they don't like that stuff, don't make them do it. I mean, if they don't want to read a financial statement, I don't make them.
Right.
I mean, I'm in, they don't like doing tax returns. I don't make them. I mean, that's why I never do like right now, all these tax organizers are going out. I mean, what could be worse than to fill one of those out? I mean, make it easy for your customers to want to do business with you. It's kind of like when you go to the doctor, you get that thing, please sign into the portal and fill out all this. Oh gosh. I hate that, but make it easy for them, make it frictionless where they want to do business with you.
And with that, do you feel that there's any storytelling tools that you might have in your arsenal that would be helpful for someone else?
I listen to story. I like fairy tales. I mean, Aesop's fables, you have a big, there was a problem. They solved it to come with a solution. So that's basically a real simple one. Fairy tales are always good. I mean, you don't have to have these big, Gone with the Wind type things. Just do a fable type of story, or a kind of thing. Easy. I like things simple that they get.
And so when you talk about simple, I think the other part is that sometimes it could be like just 3 sentences. The problem, the impact of that problem, and the solution. So it's like the beginning, the middle, and the end. Exactly. And that would be a story.
Right. Exactly. And using it, instead of talk about their business, talk about another business and what they did. And light bulb will go, light bulb goes off.
So that's the example. That's the doctors, the restaurants, the cars, the analogies. Yep. So those, I don't necessarily understand what metaphors are. So can you break that down? Because I know the word, but maybe the context would be better.
Well, let me look up the word metaphor. Let's Google what metaphor means so you can.
It sounds smart, though.
It does, doesn't it? It's a figure of speech or applied to an abstract action, which is literally not applicable. Anything regarded as it's symbolic. Metaphor is symbolic of something else.
Okay. So that's something that you use as well.
Yeah. But they kind of, and the more you do it, the better you get. I'm kind of known for my stuff I think off the top of my head, but, I'm doing this a long time.
Right.
So stuff kind of just comes to me now. And it's not that I'm any more special. I've just been doing it longer. And I thought, how can I explain this in a way that is so they're not like looking at me like deer in the headlights kind of stuff. And I noticed it like when I talk to a prospect comes in and they're talking to Hal. Hal has no concept. He's not listening, I hope, of when people are like not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And, he'll explain in a tax voice about capital gains and,
Right.
and, then they just kind of, and I go, well, let me explain what he means. And then I tell a story about what he just said. And they go, oh, they
Mm-hmm.
get it. So
Right.
I found it very helpful for me. If you listen to somebody boring talk,
Mm-hmm.
say, well, how could I make it so they get it? So when we're talking, to a prospect, and I see Hal going off on his tax stuff, I go, well, let me tell you what he just said. They go, oh, I get it now. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so, and they think he's brilliant with that, but he doesn't get that and he doesn't understand why don't they see that? I said, they're not tax people. You know,
Totally.
they're
Yeah.
not,
Well, he geeks out
numbers
over it. He
people.
lives in it all day, every day.
Yeah.
Not everybody else finds it as easy or simple as he does. So basically, stories connect the dots. That's really the
Yes. They
essence of
make you
it.
human. They make it fun. They
Yeah.
make it more interesting. And you come across as a real person, not somebody that
Mhm.
just talks about taxes and
Right.
receipts and financial statements. And, it's kind of like you become a person with them, that somebody that cares about it, not just their
Mhm.
accountant that they don't want to talk to, or they don't want to talk to when they have to, you know.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and start to wrap it up because we've covered a lot of the ins and outs, the nuts and bolts of storytelling. Essentially, what I would say is if this is something that interests you and you want to start doing this with your clients, listen to the stories that grab your attention and make sense to you and start to kind of model them and share them with your clients also. Debbie, every single time we talk, it is an engaging conversation.
It is.
Always enjoy our time together. Some of the things that we touched on is getting clients excited about the financials, how to be able to explain things in a story so it's easy to understand, and some of the frameworks that can turn that financial data that seems very, very boring and vanilla to your clients into a story so it gets them excited. And if somebody wanted to connect with you, talk with you further, find out more about what you do and behind the scenes financial, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, they can email me. My email is, I'll say it and then I'll spell it phonetically. It's bsfsdeb@gmail.com. Boy, Sam, Frank, Sam, dog, echo, boy @gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Facebook. I don't have a business Facebook. I am this. If you want to call me, my number is 386-852-5755. And my website well, you said it wrong earlier. That's okay.
Oh,
It's
that's okay.
bsfsaccounting.com. But just call me. I'm on Facebook, email me, call me. We don't have enough friends in this business. So I love talking
Mm-hmm.
to all of you. I'm on Twitter. I read Twitter more than actually post on Twitter, but or X, I guess.
X. Yep. You know what? I know that you are out there, you're accessible, you actually answer your phone, and you are looking to actually raise the level of accounting and be able to help make that difference. What you do makes an impact on the profession.
Yeah, I mean this is that we change lives with what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We're not just a bunch of paperwork and financial statements and
Absolutely.
those are the I always tell people when I'm explaining, I said, I read financial statements like other people read French romance novels. I can see what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
Let me use my skill to help you achieve your goals. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Well, I want to put like with that girl that wanted to put her pay for her kids' school. Okay, let's make that happen. And it was an easy fix. Just stop going to Starbucks, or if you had
Right.
one more client, or, if they say they can't afford your fee, I kind of look and say, gee, if you sold one more job, you could pay for me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, come on, or do you want to, work at nights, weekends, and holidays? I said, I have a housekeeper. I know how to run a vacuum. I don't want to do it. Do you want to run a vacuum? Do you? No, that's why you hire me.
Mm-hmm.
So You tell like that kind of stuff. So, but anyway, I think we need to be better with our customers and, with, and ourselves, that we matter. We make a difference in people's lives, in their we can make things that they want happen. It's not about the money. It's what the money can do for them.
Absolutely. Debbie, I want to thank you for the engaging conversation. To
You're welcome.
everybody that has joined us today, this is Warren Fogelman with Business Success Solution, showing accounting professionals how to double their income working half the time.